Hey, what is going on, CoD Familia? It is your boy BN, aka Mr. Kingdom Builder. We are back with episode 4 of the CoD Pod. This week, I actually think is going to be pretty exciting. There's just been so much that's been happening in the world of Call of Dragons. And as always, joining with me again this week, we have our guy, MrSneaky. MrSneaky, what's up?
Hey man, it's going good. Yeah, I'm actually very excited for today's episode. Like, I'm really hyped. I'm not gonna do a massive intro, so I'm just gonna pass it straight back to you.
Thank you. How dare you, going 15 words longer than I was expecting. And then our last, and of course not least, special guest this week, and we'll see if we might be able to rope him in for some future episodes as well. We got the newcomer, Shinchi42. Shinchi, what's up, man?
Hey man, what's up? Thanks for inviting me. Doing good here. How are you?
Doing all right. Just moving and grooving, and can't wait to get down to some fantastic pipeline language here for what's been happening in Call of Dragons. Now, again, before I guess we get started and really start diving into some of the heaviness, if you will, Shinchi, you're pretty new to as far as playing COD yourself. I guess before we, like I said, really diving into some of the meat, I'm sure Sneaky and I would love to hear from you first. How did you find out about COD? And then what was the lead up for you before you decided, you know what, okay, I'm going to download, I'm going to try it out, or I'm going to start diving a little bit more into just kind of figuring out what the game is actually about?
I think I found Call of Dragons through my comment section. A lot of people were spamming for me to try Call of Dragons, and I tried to download it in the website, trying to get the beta access, but I wasn't able to get it. It wasn't available in the App Store in the US. So I was able to grab the file. Actually, somebody did a file share on me when I was visiting in the Philippines. Yeah, I did an ROK meetup, and they did a file share, so I was able to get a hold of Call of Dragons that way. Yeah, so far I've been playing for I think how many days now since I started. My login is, where do you see it?
Be your VIP, I guess.
I think it's VIP. It should be there on
Oh
your
yeah, 33
designer.
days so far.
Nice, like a month deep.
Yeah, so it's been going pretty well. What was the second question?
Yeah, no. It was just more so. Gosh, where was I going with that? Was it how long when you came in, and then how did you hear about it? Yeah, so I guess if anything, you more or less pretty much I think answered it well enough for me.
Yeah.
So, okay, and then I guess transitioning to you finding the game, you download, you're checking it out. Obviously, players, like you said, are mentioning it to you in your comments that, hey, this game might be worth taking a gander at. What are, I guess, some of your initial impressions? Obviously, you having a very big rock background. I don't know, obviously, what necessarily you might have played before rock as a kingdom builder, if any prior to that. But coming from rock as being the most recent predominant game of your choice, what either similarities and maybe interesting or unique differences are you finding with COD, or just anything that you're really gravitating towards?
I think it's very unique than Rise of Kingdoms. I think the combat system with the range combat here is really what kind of I gravitated towards. I like it. It's very somewhat realistic in a battle sense, and I think one of the most unique ones also is the artifacts, where you can equip the artifacts and you can decide whenever you want to use that skill. And it has a bunch of different types of artifacts and provides different skills as well. So I think that's one of the main things that I noticed that is so different than Rise of Kingdoms. And also, like, when you're building, you can actually see the builders, you have roads, for the alliance. I think that was pretty cool. I'd say one thing that I don't like about the game is the resurgence or teleporting. It's really hard to move around, especially if you're creating a farm account. So, so far that's my take.
Okay, awesome. I think a lot of similarities. I know in Sneaky, I guess, again, so we can get, and you and I have talked about this before, but obviously I want to hear from you as well, right? What are some of your, given where you're at now, and how long we've been playing.
I've still had the same issue, and Shinchi said it, like, and it's been, I know I've said it in, I think it was like the first episode. It is like the resurgence mechanic and the ability to try and get to other alliances, right? Because like that procedure in itself is so brutal, like on a player, especially if you're like mid-season slash like maybe towards the end of the season and you try to resurge for some reason, because like when you resurge, it like brutally resets all of your policies. It gives you 50% of the merits you've earned back. It fills your spells up by 80%. Like, it isn't like a thing you should be doing like willingly, nillingly, as I say, you know. So I do agree. Like, I hope they fix that. Like, I already put my suggestion forward. Like, I wish like alliances, when you joined an alliance for the first time, for example, like your starting region changed. Because obviously they put in the system now where if an alliance controls a behemoth in a different zone, anyone in that zone can now join. So that's the way they were trying to fix this zone 1 issue, but it doesn't really fix it. But yeah, no, I love the combat still, like, and for me, when you get into like the raids and you start raiding like even like at the Hydra, and you do Hydra and like the Thunder Rock, like those ones are like the first couple of actual fun mechanically to play, and then you hit like the Necro Giant, which is just brutal in the second season when you play against it, and then the like obviously the Flame Dragon and Magma Demons. Like when you play against like those, you kind of see why Call of Dragons has, I think, the attraction it has. Obviously the PvP is great, and the PvP will improve over time, but I think when you do look at the initial like raids, at first you kind of think it's just like a gimmick and stuff, but like when you start experiencing and playing with them, like you actually feel really good, because like first time you might fail, and second time you might fail, and then when you hit it like the third or fourth time and you win, like the satisfaction you feel as a player and as an alliance of like doing that is like so rewarding, and like that's what I think the game does really well. Like it makes you feel like rewarded for like the actual effort you put in. So, and that's still like to this day, right? And I've done from server 4, so that's almost like I think 90 plus days. I've nearly done 4 months, 3 months of playing. So
Okay. Well, no, man. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, I think obviously echoing for both. You know, I think my biggest attraction to what I felt coming in, you know, back. I'm sure for those of you that remember in 2013, right, a little game called Game of War. Right, game's been around for a while. It's one of the first kingdom builders, to my knowledge, that came out on mobile. And you know, and obviously I didn't play a surplus amount of time. More so, kind of a brief introduction. You know, getting past the tutorial and just kind of messing around a bit, even though I found it really wasn't necessarily my fancy. And then eventually, you know, getting into, you know, things like Art of Conquest and, oh gosh, it was that Titans game that I'm forgetting what it's called. But it was like this, it was really aesthetically pleasing, and it was like a Titans type kingdom builder, and you basically like zoomed in and you were on like this floating island, and I'm forgetting the name, it feels so bad. But then, you know, transitioning to like the Lord's Mobiles, the State of Survivals, then eventually Rock, and then, you know, I went to Infinity Kingdom for a bit, and that was a great experience. And then obviously coming now to CoD, and, you know, I think to Shinchi's initial points on, you know, for me, I just think the range play, kind of like you said, right? Like you expect, like it was realistic to you. For me, when I was playing Rock and I saw, well, hey, there's this archer unit, but why do I have to send this archer unit to where it's basically up front and getting a facial from essentially all these other units, right? And why do they have to basically murder ball? Why do they have to be so close? Why is there no kind of true RTS actual range mechanics? And that was something that was a complete turn-on for me when it came to what I saw in CoD, and just the fact that now we kind of have this StarCraft-like Command and Conquer, this true RTS kind of total Rome, total war type feel to the game, where, you know, now micromanaging is actually a real thing. You know, spacing is a real thing. Transitioning, having good unit transition, good coordination, this is now a real thing, right? There's now more of a reason to arguably tell your alliance, hey, we need to all be on voice, you know, communicating and coordinating. And, you know, this is something that I just think hasn't really ever been done before. especially to the level that COD is. And then, like you said, with the on-field skills of being able to kind of do timed active artifact usage is absolutely fantastic. I mean, I think even one of the things I even also love is just kind of my last one here is when you look at like the barricades and the keeps, the on-field structures that you can build, I think there's opportunity there to do other things with that. You think about a game like Age of Empires and you can build walls, right? And maybe not necessarily building walls, so to speak, but the idea of being able to do something like that, and maybe just approach it from a different way. Maybe you can upgrade roads. Maybe you can build off roads, right, off of the actual trail, and you build those, and then you can upgrade those roads, and then it makes it so you can replenish going in different directions faster. I mean, the potential and the ceiling, I think, is a lot higher than we might even think at the moment for like where really COD could go. And so, yeah. With that in mind, let us efficiently transition. Shinchi, where are you playing right now? Kingdom-wise, how is it going there? What's your experience been like thus far?
I'm playing in Kingdom 14 or Server 14. So I started with an alliance called DK, and well, I was trying to beg to join an alliance at that time, and then nobody was trying to accept at that time because you're low power. I started like 2 days late on the server, so everyone's like a little bit powered up. So there were some people who recognized me. They were like, "Is this really you?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's me." They're like, "No, it's not you. It's fake." And I'm like, "No, it's me." I'm like, "Let me join." And they took me in anyway. At the end of the day, somebody took a chance, and I joined this alliance called DK. And apparently, the server has a jumper group that is not jumper, but like there's a group that came in here that are from Indonesia. So it's an Indonesian group players in the server, and they pretty much kind of dominated it. I guess one of my biggest mistake is coming into this game without a plan, and I was just like, you know what, let me just try this game, and I saw it and I got hooked up into it right away. So
Nice.
I should have done like a group, like announced it in my channel, like, hey, I'm gonna be playing Call of Dragons, let's build a kingdom together, which I didn't do. Anyway, so
You still could. There's time.
Our alliance was basically like demolished, and then I had to join. So I had to do the resurgence, which I had to learn it in a hard way, and I did it. And I joined. Yeah. So one of my videos is about the resurgence, how I lost, basically.
You paid the iron price.
Yeah, I mean, it's good that it happened so early to where like
Yeah.
the policies were like not even that, heavily invested into.
Yeah.
So I did the resurgence. I joined this new family alliance, and apparently we became number 1. We became really strong, and then, my goodness. So we were in the family alliance. Apparently there's some issue that happened. I'm not part of the leadership. I don't know. Some say it's betrayal. Some say it's not. Some say it's our fault. So I don't really know. Nor I care, because I'm here to play. Eventually, our alliance, the number 1 alliance, got defeated. We were fighting like 5 alliances from that family, and then I eventually, I left that alliance, and now I joined the second alliance that was top, which is the MVPC currently now in server 14. So it's been kind of a rocky road, but since I'm not really heavily invested in the politics in the game and leadership, to me it didn't really matter. I'm more focused on long-term survivability that I can keep on playing. Plus, I've already invested a little bit into the game. I've already got Max Lilia, so yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, one more thing. I was fighting. I enjoyed the combat in this game. I loved it. And then I had to learn the hard way to maximize my stamina. But during that period of time that I was fighting, well, there's going to be a video eventually, actually. I actually got rallied, and I was panicking. I panicked a little bit because I wasn't aware of it. The signal of the game is a little bit different. The red marker for rally is like right on the bottom, which I wasn't paying attention. And then next thing I saw, I was getting rallied, and I didn't really set my garrison correctly. So I still did pretty good trade because I spent a little bit in comparison to the other ones who were rallying. But that was kind of fun.
I love how he said it was fun taking around.
I'm sure. Yeah, that's what it was. So when you were again doing your battling and your fighting, I imagine you at least had to have one or two range legions, depending on who you were using. I imagine if you've invested in Lilia, you might have been running a standard Lilia Waldir, Waldir Lilia, depending on who you wanted to go primary or not, and then obviously any others that you decided. What again did, and you said you enjoyed the PvP mechanics. So when you're on the field and you're fighting, and obviously being able to engage in that range play for the first time, that to me was one of the most exciting parts. Even before I got to do any like light PvP for the brief amount of time that I was playing in Server 2, just on the PvE side, it was so enjoyable to be able to do that. How I mean, did it feel, I guess authentic? Did it feel that, wow, I'm actually in control of this unit, it's hitting from range, and again, was it just something that you were like, oh, okay, now that I'm in, this is cool? Or, I mean, was it really, man, this feels great?
Well, I think for me, it feels really nice to get into that combat. I guess I was using Lilia and Waldir, and then I was using, I think my second range was Craig and Guanwin, just for my marksman. I think one of my issue when I was doing combat was with the artifacts, and with the what is it called, the Phoenix Eye. So I had it equipped on Lilia, and the range of that is just too short in comparison to mage range. So I had to really get up close to the enemies sometime to just cast that, fireball. So that's one of the issues that I encountered in this combat. But honestly, I love it. I love the combat. I would send out to my, what is this thing called, Bakshi, and I'll just swipe them with the, what is that called, that weapon that I have, the artifact, the sword, the Kingslayer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll come up there and swipe them, and since, it's the second level, so and some of them are kind of like T1, T2s, and it was just like, they're all dead. Some of them were building. Another fun part, one more thing that we didn't really talk about is behemoths. Yep. So I become an R4 eventually in that alliance, and the other R4s were MIA. So people were like, "Hey Shin, can you drop the behemoths?" I'm like, "How do you do this?" And I'm like, "Okay, I dropped the Hydra, and then I actually did it wrong. I dropped it in the past while they were attacking our flag. Some of the Hydra was like all the way on the other side, and I'm like, "I'm so sorry, I didn't know." I'm like, "This is my first time." The next time that I dropped it, I dropped the which one is it? I dropped the Thunder Rock. Yeah. Right where they were killing our.
It's Zapdos. Yeah. Zapdos you dropped.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was so fun, and everybody was just building it. Everybody just died. They couldn't even handle it. So I was like, "Whoa, this is insane!" Like, how powerful the behemoths are. I think that's another uniqueness with this game. What the developers have done, being able to summon.
I've got a really good video of that, which shows it, where there's like open field combat scenarios where you see basically like a Thunder Rock dropped, and the space it creates because of the pressure of the amount of damage it pumps out. You see how much presence it brings, and it's like an actual threat. And at the same time, later down in the same video, you can see the other side as well, where if you have enough members, and I'm talking like 100, 200 members ready on open field, and that thing drops, and you go to fight it, like, you can see that thing melt too, so you can see like the trade-off if you've got the type of troops of it. So I do enjoy the behemoth gameplay. The only thing, I don't know if you've experienced it, like sometimes the behemoths, I wish there was a bit more, how to put it, like, I wish the controls, the controls was a little bit better. Because like sometimes they just kind of like sit there and they don't do all, or if there's a couple of barricades, especially like in front of them, that will block their movement too. So they're a little bit like clunky in that regard. But like when they do get to do what they're meant to do, I do feel like you feel rewarded when you see it in gameplay.
What I find really cool is, which I'm gonna drop a picture on our group chat, is that we were able to summon that Thunder Rock, and the enemy summoned another Thunder Rock. So it was just a battle of two Thunder Rocks. It was pretty cool. So I actually sent a picture here on the podcast.
Oh, nice. Oh, this is sweet. Let me move this over.
So it's like Thunder Rock versus Thunder Rock, which ours lasted a lot longer, so
So cool.
basically they had to suffer a little bit more.
Oh, that's
so
great.
Funny. Hope chat gets to see that.
Yeah, like, I'll bite your neck. No, I'm going to bite your neck. No, I'm going to go inside your mouth. No, I'll be going inside your mouth. That's exactly how this looks. Jeez, that's too funny. All right. Okay, so let's segue a little bit now. And again, obviously there's have you had a chance to read the patch notes that came out? Gosh, what was it, yesterday? Yesterday morning?
I actually have not. Where was they posting it?
It was in-game, so I mean, should be your in-game system mail.
I don't think I. Oh, it is right here. I didn't read it yet. I gotta read it.
How dare you? Just ruin the entire episode. We have to now move forward. So.
Why they call me Han? Tia Han. Are they calling me a honey? What the hell is this?
Yeah.
Honey.
She's like country western or something. What's the problem?
So what's the big take here? I'm reading it now.
Okay. I think there's a few, big
Heroes.
Yeah. So I mean, again, there's 2 new heroes that are coming out. The thing I actually find, and I touched on this, and obviously, Steve, I'm curious if you agree, because you and I had a really nice in-depth conversation about the control tree for Alwyn, and some of the opportunities that are there with some of like the damage over time stuff that's applied, the skill cancellation the skill delay that happens where you could basically freeze someone's skill usage time. I think it's up to about 5 seconds, right? And now, and one of the things we talked about in that episode was what if they came out with more control tree heroes, and then and I mentioned this in my video where I did a patch notes review, said, well, man, what if. And Shinchi, you might love this a little bit, right? So one of my takes was that, and this is something that me and Sneaky talked about, but I really feel that CoD has this, like if you've ever played any type of like role-based games, like true role-type games, where it's like Team Fortress 2, League of Legends, Overwatch, etc., anything where you really have a specific role type in a game, I've always enjoyed watching and playing those types of games, and I actually think CoD has somewhat of this hybrid opportunity to take advantage of that, where you can eventually get in and have like just someone who runs full tank, right? Someone who's just like basically they're just going to be your tank, your front line, your CC. You could have someone who's just running nothing but archers, all straight DPS. Have people who are running nothing but mages. You could have people running off tanks, right? Like if they wanted to run like Nika Garwoods or Madeline Eliana's. I mean, whatever it may be, right? You could even have healers, right? So maybe if you want to start running like Thea's, some Bakshis, right? Obviously for yourself as a possible secondary, but and working in the indices of the world, and then obviously and having that be your 5 March focus along with running artifacts, right? Then you kind of work in the artifacts, and you're like, okay, well, I'm going to run more healing type artifacts, and then you're basically having more support legions, right? So you have someone who's kind of playing more of a support role. I actually think that's the potential. Like that's one side of it on where I truly think CoD can go in that direction. And when I see new heroes like these ones coming out for, Velen and Kinara, and they actually released an image of her on the Facebook group as well, or on their official Facebook page. But it just, man, just the sky to me is the limit. And now that they're coming out with 2 more control type heroes, I'm like, dude, you could have 3 heroes now that are basically running full control control CC, and they're out in the field just delaying skill usage times from the enemies just back to back. Again, it's just the idea of that to me is so amazing on where I think the game can go. But Sneak, let me start with you, right? What are your thoughts on the heroes, and then Shinchi, we can come to you.
Yeah, I was surprised that we got a marksman. That was the only thing that I was surprised by. But the fact that we got 2 control heroes was cool, and the fact that Velen's magic, and as we was discussing, we was hoping to find some sort of combo with Alwyn, because like Alwyn is such a cool hero, and when you look at, if you've like ever seen it, Shinchi, if you look into the talent trees on control in particular, some of the keystones you can take are actually like really clever, and they're like really utility based, like stealing specifically rage off people, delaying them, like you said, silencing them as an actual talent, not an ability you gain as a skill. So I'm hoping from the skills that the mage has, it complements Alwyn the most, because then, like you said, it does start to create almost these supportive pairings where you could have a supportive pair as like a first, second, third match, and maybe a fourth and fifth is something else, maybe a bit of DPS, and your role in the alliance, if there's going to be like alliance versus alliance events, like there is like Ark of Osiris in Rock, right? You're going to be able to play as a supported hero or the utility hero of your alliance, and then you can have, like you said, like DPS heroes of the alliance and tanks and so forth. So I do really enjoy the fact that they've put them in, the fact that they're adding even more artifacts again to give you more choice of, you know, what do you want to bring to the table? Do you want your infantry to, you know, shield everyone and give them physical attack, or do you want an AoE stun, right? It's like, here's the options, and they're giving you more options now. So I'm really interested to see from that part in particular, like, what occurs, right? When it comes to like the overall parts, I was kind of expecting a lot of the changes. They've nerfed a few heroes, they've buffed a few heroes, and they've done a few changes, which is really good. And one thing which I really do like, it's like a weird quality of life feature. It's on like 0.6 where they added like max unit count as a
yeah, I saw that.
So you can now just press a button and hit max unit count. You don't have to worry about it, right? So like things like that, I do enjoy. Like they're adding slowly these quality of life changes. So I do enjoy this patch. It's a good patch.
Yeah. No, for sure. I think it's a mix of that. I think we're getting some nice progression, a little bit more quality. Like last patch, it felt as though it was almost nearly 100% quality of life. Like that's really where the trend was going. And now this time it's right. Here's some new heroes. Now we're also getting some other nice feature additions, and then the other half is kind of quality of life. But Shinchi, I'm sure you're probably reading over some of the stuff right now. Anything that you're taking a glance at that might stand out?
Yeah, I'm reading some of it. I'll probably go more detail into it later, but one of my concern is actually with the game in this direction. They're releasing heroes. I feel like, I don't know when it's, because I just started here at 14. I feel like it's a little bit too fast as well with their releases. They're also flooding it with more artifacts as well. I think it's a little bit too quick in my opinion, and it doesn't allow some of the other players to kind of catch up a little bit. Since it's not even yet in global. I don't know if they're going to release this in March or what their plan is. And I'm looking on Facebook as well. I only see Kinara on Facebook posts so far. So they haven't sent the image of the villain. Into kind of touch the topic of the control units. I think it's pretty cool. I really wanted to use Lilia and Alwyn actually as my setup in here, but one of the guys that I've talked to pointed out that with Waldir's availability of AoE makes a huge impact in comparison to Alwyn. Maybe in the later stage I'll probably, for me in my perspective, because I know you guys play in a little bit older servers, I'll probably be able to see the more wars and the purpose of these control, because at this moment I think the AoE serves a lot of good purposes. Like even for like when I was fighting just the patrol units in here, I was able to kill multiple patrol units and not cost a lot of like the command points.
Yeah. No, for sure. I definitely compliment and hitch on that as well when it came. That was something I touched on when I was doing my patch notes review, was where you mentioned about the artifacts, right? I think in this one they released, I think it was 4 when I counted. What is it? Woman Half, Halo, Dragon Rift 2, Bombflinger 3, and Chiridian 4, and then Illusionary Gems 5. And so they did a legendary. I'm assuming Bombflinger is probably a legendary 2 as well, because they didn't put
There's 2 legendaries, 2 epics, and 1 blue.
Yeah. So
now,
I see what they did based on the so it's 2, 2, and 1. Yeah. So it's again, I would have been fine with them doing 3, right? I think 2 to 3 would have been a little bit better. I felt the same, that I thought it was a little bit too much. There's currently 22 heroes in the game, right? So adding these 2, it'll bring it to 24. This is the thing I think, though, is that CoD, unlike Rock, and this is where my opinion will differ a little bit from what you were saying, Shin, is that and it goes back to what I was saying about the role types, right? I think in CoD, you're going to have that opportunity to have more dedicated roles. And it's very similar to what happened in Infinity Kingdom, right? For the I don't know anyone here who's maybe played, but Infinity Kingdom had a similar challenge where they had kind of attribute roles to specific, where it was, fire, water, earth, light, dark, shadow, etc. And for the longest time, they just didn't have enough for specific roles, attribute types roles, to where you could do a full 5 march of one type, right? Or you could do even a 4-1 split. And so they ended up, even though it wasn't like they came out with a plethora, but over time, right, you were able to build those up. I think Rock is a little, I don't know how much it's gonna differ, but I do think that Rock just doesn't have as many branching routes and differences with you being able to have maybe more options on having dedicated roles than what CoD has. So, if you look at it now, right, you don't even have enough. For example, if you look, where is it?
Yeah, I was just gonna touch quickly on
Yeah.
what you said, Shinchi, about the heroes. Like, I agree what you're saying, where you're worried about the rate of heroes coming out, but the problem was, prior to this, there was literally no heroes in the game. So if you was like a cavalry player, for example, you only had Alistair and Emery's. That was all you had. Archers only had Craig and Guan. They didn't have a legendary. So infantry had everything. It's funny enough, infantry had everything. They had Garwood, Madeline, Bakar, Hosk as well, basically, which synergized with them really well. And then mages only had the Lilia, and then you had
Durin Alwyn.
Yeah. So basically now is I feel like once they've kind of thrown out maybe another 2 heroes, I think they should slow down. But if they don't slow down, then I kind of see your point, and I agree with that point. 'Cause that was one thing that kind of pushed me away with Rock. How the last, 8 months they pushed out so many heroes, but they've said this year they're going to slow it back down. That turned me off from the game purposely.
So here's my take. One thing I like is the legendary mage that are coming out, because I need a pair for Lilia. I like that part. All right.
You see how it works for Shen. It's about what he wants and what he needs. It comes out when you least expect it.
But here's the thing. You're talking about roles in the game. It's you can only send out your march for 10 times, and then you gotta rest. So the roles have specific time period. And when they start releasing a lot more legendary commanders, or a lot more commanders in general, maybe Epic is okay. The free-to-plays are going to have a hard time, because the whales, I can get, if I want to spend, I'll get all those legendaries. I can come out as much as I can. Now, the free-to-plays are now limited to only what commanders they have to bring out to fight in combat. While pay-to-wins, who spends money into the game, can access a lot more commanders in comparison to free-to-play. Now, think about that aspect.
No, that's a fair one. That's what I was saying. I agree. Where I'm worried if they keep releasing too many. Right? It's always about the pace on commanders, right?
Because this game is a little bit different than Rock.
Yeah.
Rock, you can keep coming out with your march. You can keep sending your march even if you're free to play. So long as you have troops and you can heal them. But here, if you're in combat, you send it out. You kill 10 times. You're back out. You gotta wait. You're done. If I'm a whale, I can keep killing you.
Yeah, no, that's true. The thing is though, with the whales, which I tend to see is they'll try and apply so much pressure, and when they do try and apply that pressure, they do generally run out of stamina, or they run out of resource. It sounds dumb, but they actually do.
From my experience, since we had this war, right? At first, I didn't understand how the stamina works, and I keep refreshing my troop, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm out of stamina. So I learned that, okay, I just need to keep fighting. I don't care if my troop die. I don't have to heal them with speed ups. I'll just bring out my march. I'll kill everybody until I'm out, until it's dead. So now what I've done is I've made a lot more troops. So if I ever get into combat, I'll just let it out, let it die, and I'll have maximum troops until I die off with tens, until burn out my stamina. But what's gonna happen to the free to play, right? I'm gonna kill them 10 times, some of them probably, and they can't come out for a while. So that limits them. But now if I have a lot more legendary commanders, I can do it multiple times, to where like they'll run out of commanders to bring out, and then my team will succeed. I'm just saying in a hypothetical scenario, if a player have that kind of mindset and learns to maximize the stamina in the game.
Yeah, no, but that's a fair point, right? Because that's how the stamina system works. I don't know if in the future they'll change it. Maybe if it is technically per combat, if you get what I mean, like it doesn't.
No, it's every time you come out, right?
So I was saying, so instead of it being I can fight this one guy like it is right now, like you can fight one guy, switch onto him, and your stamina's fine, you can keep going. As long as you keep in the combat, you're good. As soon as you come out of the combat, obviously you lose it. They could just change it, so like they do in Rock, right? Normally, I thought in Rock now, if you target a new march, a new report's generated, right? So couldn't they just do the same thing with CoD?
Well,
So then every time you target a new march, a new report is generated straight away, meaning you started a new combat phase, and it would just reduce your spam down.
I don't think so, because then that would limit the combat in the game, and if no one's gonna have fun if the stamina is too quickly drained. True. So you see some of the aspect in here. I'm gonna tell you, I fought.
No, this is why we want your eyes here.
in a few hours that I fought, I've gained 200,000 merits.
Oh yeah.
So how many players did I kill that time, right? That's a lot. I mean, at this stage, it's a lot, So that's one point to kind of keep in mind when they release too much heroes. Sorry, it could really have an inverse effect to the game, and free to play will suffer. I mean, free to play can unlock the heroes, but they're not going to be as strong. They can send out 10 times out, done.
Yeah.
The whales will have a benefit when there's a lot of heroes coming out. Now, I'm not even a big whale. Now, we haven't even seen big whales yet. I don't know if there are big whales or krakens yet. We've seen krakens in Rise of Kingdoms. Eventually, once this game is globally launched, there will be krakens that are coming out, where they'll get T5 right away in an instant. We've seen this in Rise of Kingdoms, and it will happen here as well.
Yeah, no, we've said that. We've addressed that as well. We said if he was going to do that, this is where we would expect those type of like KVK formats to address stuff like that in the future.
Yeah. I mean, that's one thing to consider when looking into the heroes in here. It's nice that they keep up. They'll push out, but there's consequences in there as well.
Yeah. I just think at the moment all that they're doing personally is pushing out commanders, so there's the, if you want to call it like the base level commanders, right? So like when you boot up Rock, you had, I think it was like what, five legendaries you start with, or 6 legendaries, and then the same with epic commanders, and then there's even 5 or 6 blue commanders. So I think they're just doing the same here, so they're just trying to push out the base. Yeah. And then, like we said, like what they do after is like
they need to slow down.
Yeah, they need to slow down. Like we all agree there. Like we need them to we need the base for the game to operate, right? Because like we were saying, there was still like flying marches that didn't have a pairing together. They've brought Fear out now, so Fear can go with a lot of the flying commanders if you really wanted to try it with that. So as long as they hit the base, and then they just need to slow down, like we all agree on. Like I think the game would be fine. It's up to them, really, isn't it? It's down to the content, the developers, should I say, bringing it out.
Yeah, I think they need to release a few more epics after this release, just so, the big thing is stamina. Because like I said, the free to play are gonna have a hard time, or even the medium low spenders, they're gonna have a hard time when there is too much legendaries, and they're not going to be able to max it. They're not going to be able to rank it up high, and they're gonna struggle. I mean, I love the game because in this game you can really fight without huge consequences, because it's unlimited hospital. The only time you really lose if somebody actually zeroes you, because then you'll get wrecked. think it holds true.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think to maybe add in, a last note, which is on the hero releases, something. Gosh, I don't even know when. I think I have something coming out. Oh, yeah, never mind. It's a few days. It's a few days out. But I'll, for those that are curious, I'll give you a brief sneak peek, right? So I think this is something I have a video coming out about it, but I'm basically talking about, how do you make games free to play friendly, right? How do you, because, oftentimes, I'm sure you probably get this question a lot, Shinchi, I'm sure Sneaky, you probably get it too as well, but, I have people that'll ask me, well, hey, how pay to win is this game? Or how free to play friendly is this game? And I often find that the better question is to ask, well, how free to play friendly is this game versus another? Because, as long as you have IAPs in a game, you're going to be able to spend. It's just going to depend on, how many bundles do they offer you, and then, how much do they cost, and how much rewards or value do you get for spending or buying. And, I think one way that actually could really combat and be a quality fix for something like, because Infinity Kingdom had something similar where you were to a degree limited on the amount of PvP that you could do based on items and things like that for your AP. And again, whether or not COD decides to dive into that type of pool where they start coming out with some type of plethora amount of options, right, where you can basically get like stamina pots or something to that degree, right, then yeah, I 100% see your point where it's, hey, these people can level up a lot more heroes, therefore they'll have more stamina points available to them. So let's say they use all of their magic units, well, now they'll just run a full cav march, or maybe they'll just run full archers, or they'll run full infantry. And just the fact that they're able to utilize their higher tier heroes with their available amount of units, right, affords them a longer time they can stay out there for doing more damage and still having an impact on that front. I think with the season resets, right, it still will give free to play the opportunity. Right, I think the first season, right? I think the first season is where you have the chance to see more of what you're talking about. I think once you start getting to the second, the third seasons later on, right, and just like almost with anything, right, I think the longer that free-to-play plays, they'll eventually get to a point where they have all the heroes that are unlocked, and obviously they'll have them skilled up eventually, and then of course even then they'll have opportunities to use their gems on wheel events or others to unlock the Madeleines and etceteras of the world, and then eventually skill them. But I think when it comes to the leveling of them in that early, especially in the earlier seasons, yeah, and I think one way to combat that is they just need to have enough things to do in the game where you actually have to be doing an action or something where it's more like true time spent, and then that will in turn pay you the dividends of things like rewards or resources, materials, where like, for me, I think a game that really is more free to play friendly than another is one where I can go in and I can do something for 16 hours a day, every day. And there's just no way on average that someone who's like a mid or high spender is typically going to have that amount of time available to them, again, on average, compared to someone who's a free-to-play, which we often see most of the time they're able to put a little more time in on average than someone who's more of a higher tier spender. And so I think that's really what games should more so look to try and do, is if I can go in and I can log into COD and I could literally be doing 20 to 30 different things every day that is going to net me enough resources and enough rewards to maybe where you, and I'm not saying they should be able to do it to where you can keep up with a heavy spender. I don't know if that would really be equal or fair, so to speak, but I'm sure it's probably for a deeper conversation, but at least being able to keep up maybe with like a light to light mid spender, somewhere in that range, right, where you're basically saying, I'm going to invest my time and my energy to participate in these 20 or 30 mini games or whatever it may be, and because of that, it's going to allow for me to pace, at a certain rate. Maybe you can pace someone who's spending $250 a week, right, or $500 a month, whatever it may be. But they're basically saying it's almost like they're saying, hey, we're going to give the people who want to spend a lot of time in our game the opportunity to do that, and then get the rewards from it to where they can. Not keep up fully, but I think at least keep up to a certain pace. I think that's one of the best ways that I don't think we've ever seen a kingdom builder do that. But to me, that seems like that is one of the best ways to approach it if a kingdom builder was to ever do something like that.
one thing that you gotta think about is whatever event that they do push out, the whales will also have access, so they can also keep going at it. So it depends on how lazy the whale is by then. But I guess
100%.
I guess I wasn't kind of fair when I said about the stamina as well, because even though the whales have, I mean, the stamina, the whales still have limitation, right? I mean, it depends on the strategy of, the players in a combat. If they're able to, I mean, depending on how strong the whale is also. But what I also realized, remember I told about how we were number one alliance.
Yep.
So, when we were getting fought with like so many sides, I don't think, I can kill as much as I can as a single person. But alliance-wise, it was a struggle to defend multiple sides, and you can't keep up with the amount of stamina that you have. So there is a little bit of restriction there for the whales as well. If their alliance is getting ganged up with like 4 or 5 different alliance on all sides, one whale cannot. It's not like in Rise of Kingdoms where a whale can just plow through it. In here, it's going to be a little bit difficult because of the stamina. It limits the whale, even though they do have a lot of the heroes. But like I said, if there is too many alliances going against it, but if it's a 1-on-1 alliance, good luck.
Yeah.
But if it was a 3 versus 1, 4 versus 1, then that whale will not be able to survive. I mean, he can do as much as he can, but his alliance cannot survive 4 or 5 fronts. Because, for example, in early games, let's say hypothetically, let's just example in Rise of Kingdoms pre-KVK, one single whale, 200 million power, he can make a lot of damage in there. But here he'll be limited to what he can do, even with a lot of commanders, a lot of heroes. So that's also a good thing about Call of Dragons, I should say. I didn't just want to give the negative part about releasing all these. There's a good part about it.
Yeah, give us some flowers too, Shin. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
So.
I was just gonna say, before we finish up on that, just to add to that, I think another thing that does kind of put them in check, but I didn't actually think about until you mentioned it, was like the actual season resets themselves.
Yep.
Because the way the season resets, the fact that you lose all your CP, remember, all your heroes XP is gone. The fact that happens, it basically makes each player, you have a limited amount of CP you can spend per season. And that's basically going to be the same through tech. The only way you're going to get a little bit extra is through spending, but you don't really get a massive benefit of it. So, from the limitation of,
I think the benefit it depreciates over time, right? Like the value you get from spending in future seasons depreciates, where it's not at max value like it is the first season because of the. Just to add in for what you were saying, because I like the point you're going on.
Yeah, because I was going to say like. You'll start a new season and you might have all the maxed out heroes, but you can't level 60 all of those heroes. You physically can't do it. Like, there's not enough CP in the game to max every hero, if you get what I mean. So like you could maybe run a few mid-max matches if you wanted as a whale, right, and abuse the stamina that way. But I don't think a mid-max match is going to still be a 60 out 60 match.
Yes, you can farm for CP. Make a farm account, feed yourself with merits, and buy it from the merit store.
But merits, with that though, your merit store resets every week, right? And you only can buy
it comes out in the daily supply.
Yeah, once, and you have to rotate it for 100 gens, isn't it not?
Yeah, I mean, for a spender, it doesn't matter.
Oh yeah,
it's 100 gen.
Yeah, I keep forgetting like you're coming from the spender's view, right?
Yeah. I'm coming from all the views.
Yeah, no, you're arguing that view here though, which is good.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm seeing it from the other view, which is
it affects it, So, CP wise, I mean, they should release more options to obtain CP. Basically, what I'm saying.
Yeah. And even I think even for things like stamina, like if they came out with things like for stamina pots, but maybe they just did like a slow, or I should say, just in general, right? If they did something like that and similar to CP, because they did that for something like IK, where they eventually came out with a few more events to where you could actually earn those types of items, not a plethora or a surplus amount, but a little bit here and there.
Yeah. The reset of the heroes, though, I mean, once you have a maxed out commander, a hero, no matter if it's epic or or legendary, I mean, whoever has the maxed out will always have that benefit. even if it's level.
Oh yeah, on the
because it's
skills.
all fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the scale of it. So I mean, yeah, it makes it a little bit challenging. You know, when they reset it, it's gonna be a pain in the butt because you gotta grind. I guess that's a good thing that they want us to do to keep us in the game.
Yeah.
Well, the thing I'll say about that I like, and before maybe we can transition to maybe the last thing for a few minutes, but the thing I'll say here is that I like the reset mainly because to me it gives you a more accurate indication of one, who is still active, and then two, if you think about it, the reset actually benefits the free to play player because it gives them the opportunity to remain consistent and highly active to where someone who's spending, might just think, okay, well, I'm just going to spend this season and I'm good, right? Who knows how much someone might pay attention to the resets and then they log in and like, oh man, I got to level everything back up again. And then, so I mean, it's a factor. It may not be that heavy, but I do think that leans more on the free-to-play friendly side from the resets because it gives them more opportunities from season to season to season to where they can be more impact. They can be more, they can catch up in general benefit sooner as long as they remain consistently active compared to what you're seeing. And then spenders obviously still have the opportunity to do what they want to do. I mean, even if you look at players like Ghost and King of Midas, right, that the two top players right now basically going back and forth, or they were for a very long time, pretty much at around peak 70 mil. That's kind of the highest we've seen thus far in the game. And you still have other players who, even like someone like Ripper, who was kind of working his way up the boards. I think he's 4 or 5 right now, strongest in the game. And, he doesn't necessarily spend as much as they do, but, he still spends a decent bit, but he also replenishes that with just general high-level activity from conversations I've had with him. But, yeah, I think both you guys have good points. I guess that was just the last little thing I wanted to add in, just being in favor of the resets.
Maybe you can zero a whale after reset. Just grind it up real quick. And they don't have a leveled up garrison commander yet. So.
Yeah, no, for sure. Oh, that's too funny. Okay, very last thing then, so we can start closing this out. I just wanted to do a quick touch on the merge conversation. I know we were briefly talking about, and then we can end this out. So. Again, I know, Sneaky, you've had an opportunity to read the suggestion that I had submitted on the Call of Dragons suggestion channel. I think Shinchi, you did. And I know we were briefly touching on it before, but obviously, would love to hear the thoughts. Let me before I pass it to you, Sneak, and then Shinchi, and then I can close. Let me just preface with so everyone's kind of aware of what's happening. So. Right, it was announced. Yes, I believe it was announced yesterday, or if not, someone found out the day before and then posted the screenshot. But that COD CS confirmed that Kingdoms 5 and 6 are going to be merging into SS1-1 going into the next season, and obviously that has some people essentially on both sides of the fence. I recently came out with a video this morning, which I'm shocked it's doing as well as it is, essentially about that and my views. But again, Sneak, let me pass it to you. What are your thoughts on the announcement? Are you in favor, not in favor? Why not? And then again, what would you like to see happen? And then we'll pass it over to Shinchi.
Yeah, I'll keep it brief. I just don't want it to happen. Not because of merging as a whole. I just don't think it's fair for those players because you're literally pitting players that have only just played the game for maybe a month, coming up to 2 months compared to players that's played it for 4 months, coming up to 5 months, and those players as well. The first month they played was in a very imbalanced game still. So you got to remember, everyone in Super Server 1 and the beta testers, you had crazy rewards when you first played. You could get literally every single beginner. You could get nearly 30 to 40 hero sculptures from 10 gold keys. It was just obscene when you first started, right? So I think putting them in with, I'd say, those guys is just a bit unfair, and I like your idea of just keeping it simple, have servers 5, 6, 7, and 8 merge again, and then you would have 9, 10, 11, and 12, and vice versa, and these would be Super Server 1, 2, 3, 4, and then eventually you might have a Super Server versus Super Server, right? So it'd be the bear version of KVK, but That's how I think. I just don't like it. As you can tell, it kind of puts me on a down thinking about it because some of those players in 7, 5, and 6 might just get rolled, right? And that's just like unfair, and that just puts players out of the game.
Yeah, I mean, SS1-1. I'm sure for those that are hungry for free nom noms or free samples, I'm sure love it and would most likely X the suggestion in general. But okay, Shinchi, your thoughts, because I know yours differed a little bit when we were having kind of an initial kind of pre-talk powwow.
Yeah, first of all, I didn't even know we have audiences. Hello. If you guys have opinions, you guys could DM as well. No, my point of view here, I mean, I get the point where you guys saying about like being fair, but for me, I really just don't like the idea of forced merge. I encountered this with another game where, we had to do a forced merge, and then you have to basically kind of work with the other team. So here's what's going to happen in a realistic. Some people are going to fight right away because they're hungry, like you said. Okay, we're hungry, we're going to fight you. And then what's going to happen with that is you're technically going to kill whatever server that you merge with. Because there are people, if you kill them, you fight them, they lose their territory, they lose some of their players, they lose their alliance, they're going to quit. Some people, there are dedicated players that will stay and play the game. The spenders will stay 100%, especially if they invested already. But there are players there that will leave the game when they do that. I could see that happening because I saw it happen in another game called IG, Infinite Galaxy. So with doing that, that server may be strong for a bit, but it's gonna go downhill eventually. And I've seen it happen. The activity is gonna go down. Honestly, I think what they've done at Rise of Kingdoms is really good. There's migration. It allows more freedom for players. You can select who you want to play or where you want to go. Just the force merge, especially I think they're doing 4 servers to merge, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, that's what they do. They do 4 into 1.
Yeah.
So 4 to 1. You think about this. The top alliances, they're gonna be dominating. There's 4 top alliances. How many players in one alliance? And then you look at second alliance, third alliance. You're gonna lose these people because then they can't just. Not everybody can join the top alliance, And then what's gonna happen here's another thing's gonna happen. Once people realize that it kills a kingdom after fighting, people are gonna fight it 100%. There's no doubt. But then when people start talking on Discord, and they start realizing that, oh my God, this actually kills our server, and then the succeeding kingdoms that will merge will not fight anymore. They're gonna find a way to unite, because in the other game that I was in initial stage, they were all fighting, and they realized, oh my God, this killed the whole thing. Now when it came to my server, when I merged, we were all like trying to work together. We didn't even have any war at all when we did a server merge. So that's the sequence that's going to happen in this path. But honestly, I think they shouldn't do it. But I'm here to play. I'm going to have fun. There's war. I'm going to play it. I'm going to try to survive as much as I can. If my alliance lose, I'll probably move to the strong alliance. But would I like it? No. But would I try to survive? Yes. But at the end of the day, there's going to lose a lot of players. Majority are going to lose. You're going to lose is the free-to-plays, not the spenders.
Would you just maybe fix it? Would you say, when they do this force merge, for example, right? You might merge in your super server 2. Would you then give the players in that super server access to migrate? So then say they could migrate to super server 1, or in the future when there's obviously loads of super servers, right? They could go to super server 22 or 52 and stuff like that. If they wanted to. Would that be something that you'd be like, okay, maybe that could fix it?
Well, you kind of countered the point of what they're doing of force merging it. They do force merge so that you stay there. I think the force merge, what I see in RTS like this is they do force merge so that you can keep fighting. Games like this, they encourage you to fight, right? When you fight, they make revenue from you fighting. But no, I don't. I think it's gonna be. We'll see it run. Maybe it's a little bit different here since there is, unlimited troops in the hospital. That's something that is so unique, kind of like a curveball that they put in there.
Yep.
But I still think the top alliances will dominate, and then you're only gonna have how many alliances that can probably stay in the. I haven't seen the center yet.
We normally have 2 or 3 in those.
yeah. So imagine this: you have 4 servers. How many active alliances in one server that do you guys have right now? Because for us, there's like 4 active alliances that can potentially grow. So you're gonna lose the other ones in there.
Yeah.
Well, I think so. To that note, I think part of it is that the kingdoms are probably having some type of lower threshold for player capacity, just because it is beta. I mean, it's on average taking about 4.5 days before them to, at least currently, right, release a new kingdom. I think when global hits, there's a very good chance, because they did this in IK, where IK, when global hit, it felt as though the new global kingdoms were getting higher average player capacities compared to what we were seeing in beta, just because of how long kingdoms were taking to limit, and then obviously with region limitations as well. And I mean, they haven't even released to the majority of the major markets yet, and assuming that's going to come in global. So my hope, if not optimistic view, is that once global hits, kingdoms will be on average more healthy, where you might have more than just a couple, right, starting alliances that will be able to at least grow in the early game, and it won't just be, hey, we're only going to have 4 or 5 alliances that are 30 days in and that's it, right? Because, I mean, that's relatively pretty low. Even the average Rock Kingdom probably has 12 to 20 alliances that are at least somewhat healthy going into the first couple weeks, unless, albeit, they just there's just Rampage or some type of group that just wants to go kill.
This. You need to think about it in the point where, like, this merge is almost kind of like, mid to end game of the season, right? So, like I said, at the end of the day, when they do merge, there's only probably max, I should expect, maybe 4 top alliances in a super kingdom. And imagine those each server probably have 4, active strong alliances. And then and then it's gonna shrink down to only 4 alliances eventually, because who's gonna play, being on zone 2 the whole time, or zone 1? Nobody wants to. I don't know how the map is gonna be. The map's gonna reset, I assume, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna start from the beginning.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be we'll see. It's gonna be, for me, I think it's gonna be a mess. And there's going to be a lot of players leaving. But I could be wrong, but that's just my experience.
What I'll say is this. If you look at kind of the first exhibit example or Exhibit A, which is SS1-1, when they merged, right, so you had, I think it was TA and King, who were basically from S1 and S2 at the time, who were the 2 top or strongest alliances. But Kingdom 4 collectively was pretty much more healthy. They were more even and spread out, and they were kind of going back and forth, with S2 as the strongest kingdom leading into the merge, even though Kingdom 2's power gap between 1 and number 7 was a lot wider than Kingdom 4's was. And then when they finally got into SS1-1, right, no one really left. Like, I never heard anyone say that publicly, or even in just some level of mass posting or mass hysteria, right? It was never, oh man, right, the merge came, we're all going to leave. Now, part of that, I think, is because of the precedent that has been set by the game, right? And I think consistency is very important. If you're going to come out with a product and you're saying, well, hey, this is how we're going to do it, then be consistent and do that, right? Live up to that. Because then the mindset for everyone is, okay, well, this is how the game is, and, right, we're going to play it. Now, I agree with you, generally speaking, that I am for one, actually generally against forced merges, and you kind of essentially said what I have said in videos, which is you're basically kind of getting pushed into a forced KVK, right, from the merges. It's just what's happening. It's the fact of it. And, there's no king tools in COD, at least at the moment, so there's no way to do things like kingdom mail. There's no negative titles or titles in general. There's no migration caps, except, like, they don't have any of that right now. Now, obviously, that's something that I'm sure a lot of us would love to see, something to that degree, but they don't have those abilities at the moment. So because of that, you really look at COD as it leaning more on kind of being more alliance-based, right? Even though, sure, you can have groups and you can have allies and unions, etc., but you don't necessarily look at a kingdom like you would in Rock as, well, okay, we're really building our kingdom to be a healthy, attempted, unified kingdom, right, in the ideal state, so we can focus on progression and then be in a much better position when we finally get to Season 2 for the Merge Kingdom. Now, Kingdom 4 took this approach early on. They had a little bit of war, a little bit of skirmishes in the beginning, right, the first couple weeks, and then they pretty much transitioned to 100% development progression. And that's why you were able to see them from the stats when I would go in and I would do stat compilations for the first 4 kingdoms, and they were toe-to-toe keeping up with Server 2, despite them being, a little bit older or a little bit younger. And then you come into the SS1-1 merge server, and now it's, initially there was a lot of fighting that was happening, and it was basically like Kingdom 4 versus 1, 2, and 3 for a large part of the kind of beginning middle part of it. And even during that time, right, no one really was, at least until recently, no one was really in this kind of mass. And again, this is just one example. It doesn't mean that it's going to play out that way, to your point, for any of the future merge kingdoms. But I think as long as they stay consistent and they say, look, this is what we're going to do, right, we're going to merge. Now, I think one way to do it, right, and again, this is just if we're going along the current system that's already in place, right, despite, me feeling the same, that I would rather have them just do something like, a home kingdom, and then you have a KVK, and then you just work in migration. I think that's kind of, to me, somewhat of the standard right now, and it really is a nice kind of best of both worlds scenario. But I think if they do plan to continue down the path they are with merging, I think one way to do it is that you just don't allow anyone to migrate Season 1, and then once Season 2 hits and you get into a merged kingdom, then you can migrate, right, from any of the kingdoms that are in a merged kingdom, and then now you can migrate to any of those ones.
So currently, what's their goal? Because, I'm still in the early stage. I haven't hit that, What is their goal after the merge?
As for an individual or for an alliance?
No, for the game. So after that season merge, right? After you have that kingdoms that you've talked about, after they merge, okay, done, established. What's next?
Still unknown.
The way I would say from playing it, every season is generally about when it resets, it's all about the behemoth. I'm not even gonna lie. I always think the behemoth part is the best bit. Like I said, even though you're gonna get the combat and stuff, it's just gonna be you get to reset. The new Season 2 is going to start, and hopefully the developers have brought, 5-6 new raids. Instead of doing the exact same raids you've done in Season 1 again, it's a complete different raid system, right? And every season you're going to be challenged by different raids and see if you can tackle them, basically.
No.
And then obviously there's PvP.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, I know what you're asking though, Shin. As far as is there going to be KVK? Is there going to be Season 3 where they're going to merge more merge? Those things we don't know yet. That's the short answer.
So basically, what I could see is that they will merge the first merge. Then they're going to have some combats. It has to be. There's no way this game is a PvE game. It's 100% going to be a PvP. Yeah. So what's next after that? And you talked about because this one doesn't have, the king, and you don't have that for the kingdom. But nobody wants to play a game on a server that's always constantly fighting. People wants to be able to grow.
Yeah.
So they, that I just think it's gonna be interesting. I don't know. It could be good.
So here, yeah. So I'll give you 2 ideas that I have for the future, right? And I think either of these would work well. So I think after they do the first merge, right? So my hope would be, look, they work in migration, but it's kind of like if you look at Rock, right? The way that the migration works ideally is that if you want to be able to migrate to the end stage, which is SOC, you basically have to wait your 3 KVKs, and then you can migrate to SOC. I guess technically you could do it in Season 2, but the idea is if you just want to get to end game, all SOC kingdoms can migrate to SOC kingdoms. So in here, right, one way to look at it is you let them you do the 4 kingdom merge, you go into Season 2, then that enables, very similar how they do Resurgence, right? Resurgence works different in Season 1. You have to wait till the 8th Augerstone chapter, Season 1, but then when you get into Season 2 or Season 1 plus, if we're being specific, you can do Resurgence right away, right after the first Augerstone chapter completes. And so I think kind of enabling it like that, right? So you do the first merge, so you have 4 kingdoms go into 1, then migration is enabled. You could argue from day 1, or if they want to enable it at a certain Augerstone early chapter or something, and then that would allow for you to migrate to any of the kingdoms that are in Season 2 or arguably beyond, because they'd be older at that point, right? So it's almost right, you can't go younger, you're just going older, so it's not unfair to any of the newer kingdoms. And then you take one of 2 branches. You can either then merge servers again, right? And then maybe that's the trend they go, which is just a merge. However, I actually like the idea of if they eventually came out with some type of KVK system, right? So they basically just did like a one-time merge, right? Very similar to like how they used to have it, right? Where it's your continent of 8 kingdoms and rock would basically all get put into the KVK, and you knew the positioning based on if it was 1, 2, 3, 4 based on when they were released. And then after that, they started basically kind of ELO ranking you, so to speak, off of it, and then that's, at least back then, I don't know if it still works that way now, but obviously now it's, I think, like 4 kingdoms or something they've limited to for your first KVK, but back in the day it was 8, and then you'd go into your second season of KVK, and that would be kind of going off of your ELO. So I'd love for something like that to happen in COD, where ideally you let the first merge happen, and then you transition into them coming out with something like KVK, and then them having migration enabled at that point, so you're kind of getting the best of both worlds. The only caveat or difference is that you're just seeing one merge that happens from the first season to the second, because I don't think they're necessarily going to get rid of, like, to me I think that's a selling point is them merging. So I think it's hard to ask them and say, hey, just remove that complete foundational feature that you've implemented in the game and you're selling.
The merge hasn't happened yet, right?
What do you mean?
The merge hasn't.
5 and 6, but merges have happened. Like,
In one.
Just one. Yeah, just one so far.
4.
Yeah.
How many? Because I don't know anybody from 1 to 4, really. I think. Question is, how many? Not the top alliances. What happened to all the top alliances of each 4?
We're still fighting.
Yeah, no, they're still active. Essentially, they've just condensed, right? Like, so to your point that you mentioned.
There's going to be resentment eventually, right?
The way it's worked realistically is like we've hit Super Server 1's merged together, so servers 1, 2, 3 are merged, and then basically the start of the season, Zone 1 occurs, and you get to choose where you get to obviously go. Generally, that Zone 1 stage is like your development stage, where you're powering up, you're resourcing, you're training your troops, you're getting your tech ready to fight, and then, like, depending on where you've positioned, Zone 1 opens up, and then basically to your left and right, generally, like we had allies left and right. So again, it was just kind of, right, let's power up, and you was getting ready, and you were killing all these behemoths and stuff, and all the content, and then Zone 2 opened. And then that's when, like, now we're fighting. And then, right, and then it was like Zone 3 opens, and the fighting continues. And then generally what happens is, by the end of it, you've got about, I'd say, like 2 weeks, 3 weeks towards the end of the season. Generally, the dragon comes out, and then there's like a week of maybe a bit more fighting. But generally, after that stage, it dies down. Like, the server goes back calm. It's like everyone goes back to farming up, because they know the season's about to reset in 14 days. There's no point wasting your troops or your resources and stuff in fighting, because you're going to need it next season, and you could have been working on tech. So
we don't know what the next season is, right? If you're going to fight with the same people, right?
Yeah.
The only thing that we do know is the new map. Whenever
maybe this server merge is not actually merged. Can you actually join the other alliances?
Yeah, you can. Well, so this is essentially how it works, right? You
can quit and join.
Yeah, so like the 4 kingdoms get merged together, and any alliance, any player can join any alliance in the merged kingdom. There's no limitations. The only limitation is just
resurgence and stuff.
Exactly. The only limitation is just where you start. That's the only thing you have to choose in the beginning is which Zone 1 region are you going to start in. But you could, like basically what happened in the first merge from Kingdoms 1 through 4 is weeks before. And I'm sure for others probably was happening sooner, but weeks before when it was announced and before everything went down with the actual merge going forward, you already had alliances talking with other alliances from other kingdoms. You had players talking with other players, and you ended up seeing, because with the limitation, I think it's 40 player max start before for a brand new alliance. So basically what happened is all of these big alliances had to break up anyways, and because of that, you ended up seeing some different alliances and unions that were formed throughout that period, and then obviously until they were able to get whatever main alliance they wanted to use as the one to funnel into, they basically made a few other alliances to start, and then you're having other players that are probably going to return and be somewhat active. Obviously you're not getting any new player influx, but you're basically choosing the Zone 1 region you start in. And so SS1-1 actually was pretty dope, because for the most part, everyone, like no one really jammed on someone else's party. It was actually very well coordinated between them. And I was covering it, the whole way. Sneakyy did some content on it too, and you basically saw all the kingdoms kind of, in a very democratic way, take their own Zone 1 regions that they wanted. Like, everyone kind of coordinated with each other, even though, I don't know what the level of conversation was. But then after that, when Zone 1 opened, then, after the adjacent level 1 passes opened, then, it was basically just, nonstop fighting. But it doesn't mean that alliances from your kingdom are gonna be faithful, right? That's one of the ways it can play out. You might have 6 active alliances in your kingdom before a merge happens, and maybe 3 of them defect and they join another group or another union from alliances from another kingdom. Or maybe you have half the players leave your alliance and they're just like, you know what, we don't like this leadership, we're just going to go ahead and make our own alliance. I mean, anything can really happen. If anything, I was just surprised by how well mannered, so to speak, and the level of cooperation that happened between the first 4 kingdoms going in. Like, that was it was just shocking to me.
Yeah, maybe this should be interesting. We'll see, because I haven't experienced it yet, and I don't think in this game as well. I was just thinking right now. I just realized the flags here. You don't really get deaths on the flags when you kill other players, because you just kill them outside building or destroying it. The only way you can get death, I could see. I don't know about the keep. I think they can build a keep where they can get in and put some mage in it or marksman in there.
Yeah.
I haven't used it yet. I don't know how you attack that or you rally that if you get deaths for that one. I don't know. But the only part I've seen deaths is from the pass. So.
Yeah, and city rallies.
And city rallies, yeah. So is there a rule in the merge where you can't rally somebody if they are in the territory of the alliance, or no?
It was a recent update.
That was a recent.
Yeah, go ahead, Sneak.
That now. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so maybe.
Zone, you're fine.
So maybe. I'm just thinking, like, players can, people who wants to grow don't need to fight, and they just keep growing, and then eventually they can keep joining. Eventually join the stronger alliance, and those people who keep fighting will get weaker.
We had, just like, before we finish, like, on server 4, before the merge, we had that set up, basically. So, like, my alliance was SA04, which is, like, POS now, with Ninja, who's in control and stuff. There was, like, EXP, there was, like, PHX, there was so many alliances in there, and they was, like, the big boys. But then you did have, like, people that were free to play and they wasn't strong enough to join the big boys, if you want to say that, but they joined smaller alliances, and we made smaller academy alliances for them, and they were so happy with just being in Zone 1 or 2, growing passively. They didn't have to fight, and then next season a lot of them grew considerably enough so that literally this season they've been in a load of different alliances fighting, and there's been literally, like, people, and it's kind of crazy when you see it, people around 6, 7, 8 million power with almost 1 million merits happily, because they've just been pushing and fighting, and they're free to play players just pushing, right? So I do like that, like, when this merge does happen, that occurs, so you do get that.
I think the biggest curveball is that you can fill the hospital unlimited, and that changes things from what I know.
Yeah,
100%.
Because people can, keep on fighting, and they don't really have any consequences. You get free healing.
Yep.
So maybe it might be okay. We'll see. I hope for the best. I'd love for the community to grow. Of course, as content creators, it's only benefits us if the game grows.
Definitely.
Yeah, no, 100%. All right, so that is going to do it for us now. So let's go ahead and just get to some closing remarks here, because our multiple attempts to keep it shorter, like we thought, obviously failed because we're the best. So from here, let us go ahead and close it out. Sneaky, we'll go Sneaky, Shin, and then I can round. But Sneaky, again, let closing remarks, and then of course let the people know where they can find you.
Yeah, man. Well, it's been a great episode. Thank you, Shinchi, for coming on. It's been honestly a blast having you here, and we do obviously hopefully look forward to joining in the next episode, or I say next episode, future episodes, and that with some more content creators. But yeah, if you're looking for my socials, I'm on Twitter with MrSneaky94. I'm also on YouTube, MrSneaky, and I do also have a Discord, so we'll put the Discord link below as well.
Yep.
And I'll pass it on to Mr. Shinchi boy.
Yeah, so yeah, thank you for inviting me. This is a good opportunity. I love it. I really enjoyed it. I love the discussion, and for me, I'm still kind of learning through it. There's still a lot for me to kind of explore, so I do appreciate everything in here. I would say, you guys can find me through, of course, YouTube. I have TikTok, I have Facebook, Instagram, I have Discord as well. Feel free to reach out if you guys want to talk, anybody. And I should say is that for the viewers, make sure to, support the content creators in here, all of the people that are going to be making the contents, because people that make the contents in here, they'll keep doing it when they're rewarded with the people actually watching the content and know that they're able to provide something, right? So support the content creators. And what else should I say? I forgot what I was going for this one.
Final thoughts. Yeah.
Yeah, our final thoughts is that this game is pretty cool. I love the gameplay is awesome, and there's gonna be, we know with Lilith, technically it's Lilith. Well, we know with Lilith they are going to, put out so much content for this game, and it's gonna be insane. I think we're just in the beginning of it. It's gonna be awesome. I think it is a much more free-to-play friendly in comparison to the other game, with that stamina that limits the whales to do a lot more damage in the game. So I look forward for more contents in here. I look forward to join another podcast in here. Just send me an invite and we can do another one. But I guess that's it. Thanks for having me.
Sweetness. No, thanks. Again, thanks. Obviously, big shout out to Shinchi for joining us this week on the episode. Sneak as well. Again, you guys can always click on our Discord profiles. I'm sure we all have our socials in there with links. And then, of course, I will, at least for this video, and I know the one that Sneaky will put, we'll make sure that we have the co-hosts' socials in there as well. So, obviously, if you guys want to check them out on YouTube, join their Discords, send them a message, right? We'll make sure we have all that information in the descriptions and pinned comments. And then lastly, for myself, right, again, similar thing. You guys can just check me out. All my stuff, which for the most part is really just YouTube, right, is just, again, at Boss NASTi. Again, all caps, I is lowercase because I'm fancy like that. Pinky's that fam. And yeah, so that's going to round it up. And thanks everyone for tuning in. Happy to see a little bit more of an audience this time. I know we kind of do these things spur of the moment, right? It's not necessarily us having kind of a planned day and time. So, it's really more so, hey, join the Discord. You guys can join us whenever you see it. I'll always make sure that I ping appropriately. So if you are a part, right, and you get an opportunity to come and tune into the live show before we upload the recorded pod, right, we love having that opportunity. And obviously some of the feedback that we got from the community today, right? A little more chat, a little more attendance was great to see. All right, that's us sending it out. As always, until next time, we will catch y'all later.